Uber and Lyft drivers across the country are shutting off their ride-sharing apps today. They are participating in a strike in at least 10 cities to protest low wages and lack of access to full-time employment benefits.
The strike coincides with Uber's IPO filing today. The company is expected to be valued at over $80 billion when it goes public.
So joining us now is Michael Reich. He's a professor at UC Berkeley and co-chair of the Center on Wage and Employment Dynamics at the Institute for Research on Labor and Employment. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a really interesting story, and certainly let's first talk about, because there's a lot to get through, let's talk about why these drivers are going on strike and what it is that they're saying, what it is that they're protesting about their livelihoods.
Right. They're asking for a fair share. They know that many of the owners of Uber are about to become millionaires and billionaires, and they're not benefiting. And their wages, they've actually been going up a bit in New York because of regulatory policies here, but in the rest of the country they're going down. And also the companies keep pumping more and more drivers into the system, so that wait times are kind of ridiculously low. And what that means is that the drivers, when you can calculate their pay on a per-hour basis, they're getting fewer rides per hour. So it's not just a question of how much they get paid per ride, but how many rides per hour they're going to get. Their cars are empty almost half of the time. That's congesting our city. It means they're driving around. There's no place to park in Manhattan. And the companies think they're better off, but in fact, if they could align their interests more with the workers, everyone would be better off. It would be a more efficient industry.
So then explain to us how the company could be valued so highly, but the workers are making so little.
That's a really good point.
And as I understand it, has Uber even turned a profit?
Uber corporate-wide has not turned a profit, but it does make a lot of money on its drivers, certainly in New York City and in cities in many, many countries around the world. They're losing money on their investments in autonomous cars, and they got shut out of India and China and so on. And to some extent, they're investing as they expand. That makes sense. But they say in their filing that their business model depends on the driver pay being low. And if the driver pay would go up, their business model would be upended. But in fact, the drivers don't get benefits of any kind. Their pay after their expenses are something they don't always know about when they enter the industry. Their expenses add up, and the companies don't pay for any of that. They're just a software platform company.
So let me ask you a question, and it's sort of a two-pronged question. One, because we're talking about, when we talk about congestion, for example, we mean like New York City, where there are so many cars on the roads right now, mostly Uber and Lyft drivers. In addition to yellow cabs, you have this push and pull. The yellow cab taxi drivers who in years past paid millions of dollars for the medallions that allows them to drive taxi cabs, those medallions have fallen in value. We've seen numerous stories of generally immigrants who drive taxis who've taken their own lives because they can't afford to make a living as taxi drivers because of Uber and Lyft.
Right.
Understanding both sides of the situation, where is there a solution there? Because people want speed, they want efficacy, and to my mind, it is a supply and demand issue. There are people out there who are increasingly taking these Uber cars because it's sometimes difficult to find a taxi in the rain, for example. So what's the solution there?
Well, yeah, I mean, and also there are many underserved areas of New York City that, and the rest of the country, where Uber and Lyft have come in and they perform a very valuable service.
That was my second part, because I was in Madison, Wisconsin, and it wasn't a 2-minute wait. It was a 16-minute wait to get from the airport to where I needed to go.
Right.
And the woman who was driving the car, this was a very significant portion of her income.
Right. Right. So there are some drivers who only work a few hours a week, but the drivers who do 80% of the rides are working full-time, 40, 50 hours a week. So there is a problem for the taxi cab drivers. There's no question, and something needs to be done for them. And quite a few of the drivers, of the taxi drivers are owner-operators, and they're underwater because they bought their medallions high, now it's low. It's just like when homeowners were underwater, and there should be some kind of bailout for them so they could resell their their medallions.
So this is how the gig economy works, though. And we've seen it, whether it's Airbnb or whatever. In this case, we're talking about you're driving your own car as part of the gig economy. You're sort of a private contractor or independent contractor.
Right.
Is the remedy to make Uber drivers employees, or would that, like you mentioned, the company argues, upend the whole business model?
The company is making so much money off the drivers. They could afford to pay a lot more. And the drivers could still have a lot of flexibility in when they drive and be employees. There's no question about that. That is the case in other countries. The technology doesn't require that they be independent contractors. The technology is just connecting drivers and riders together. And I don't know if becoming employees is the whole solution, but it's really the case, though, that employees get Social Security, they get unemployment insurance, workers' compensation, and they're eligible for all kinds of health benefits. Many of the drivers in New York have been on Medicaid because they're really paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Thank you very much for shedding light on this. I wonder if a day is enough. One day of protest is enough.
Apparently there's another one coming up.
Pocketbooks of these owners, but really important story. Thank you for shedding light on it for us.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.